Hi, it's Robin. Last video, we followed the career of Commodore programmer Andy Finkel from the time he was hired by Commodore in early 1981, and we tried all his VIC-20 programs, finding several hidden credits, Easter eggs, where he had hid his name in the programs as a way of asserting authorship, even though official Commodore policy prevented that. Today, we're going to continue with his work from 1982 to 1984 on the Commodore MAX and Commodore 64 computer, which he moved on to after the VIC-20. If you're not familiar with the Commodore MAX, it's quite a rare computer. Commodore intended to position it somewhat between the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, and also to position it as a games console a little more than a personal computer. But as it turned out, there wasn't really much space for it in the market, and it only officially released in Japan and didn't sell very well there. It's essentially a Commodore 64. It shares the same VIC-2 video chip and SID sound interface device, but it has just a cheap membrane keyboard, which I think looks great, but isn't so nice to type on. And it's also missing ports for disk drive, user port, and it only has 2K of RAM. So it's a severely cut down Commodore 64. People wanting a personal computer would probably prefer to even have a VIC-20, even though this does have better graphics and sound. And I do have the original Commodore MAX version of Music Composer. The cartridges were quite plain, but they're the same shell that was used on the Commodore 64. And Commodore MAX cartridges are compatible with a regular Commodore 64 due to the Commodore 64 having an Ultimax compatibility mode. The reverse isn't true, by the way. You can't play a regular Commodore 64 cartridge in the Commodore MAX. And while I don't have the instruction manual for the Commodore MAX version, I do have the Commodore 64 version of Music Composer. And as far as I know, it's exactly the same. They just updated the case to match the Commodore 64 style, but it's exactly the same. And as has been the case in all these manuals that we've looked through, Andy Finkel and other developers' names are not mentioned in it at all. Okay, so we'll give this Music Composer cartridge a try. I'll just be running on the RF output. The quality's okay. Because this is a Japanese machine, you actually have to tune it to channel 95 to pick up the signal. Okay, so we'll power it up. And here we are. Even though the cartridge says Music Composer, on the screen it says Music Maker, copyright 1982, hit a key to start, press the space key, and this is a simple program to edit music and play it back. We'll just play the built-in sample. Okay. So you notice that doesn't give any credits to the programmer, but of course there is an Easter egg here that shouldn't be a surprise after this series. And it's pretty funny. I went about disassembling it, but this is actually probably the easiest Easter egg there is to trigger, where it says hit a key to start. Just read that very literally instead. Hit a key to see the Easter egg. So here I'll just press A, and there we go. By J. Fagans, that's John Fagans, who is another Commodore engineer, and Andy Finkel, August 18th, 1982. And this Easter egg does work perfectly on a Commodore 64 as well, with the same cartridge. But since I have a Commodore MAX, I want to show it on the original machine it was intended for. We should take a better look at the Commodore MAX in a future video. Okay, I'll swap it out and put the Commodore 64 in. Okay, I've got my Commodore 64 up, and before we continue with the new Easter eggs, just one thing I want to show. Just going to load up one of those Scott Adams games. Last video I showed the VIC-20 game. It's not hard to find ROM dumps of these online as program files, which with a little bit of work can be made to work on a VIC-20. But the interesting thing is that these can even be loaded on a Commodore 64, as pointed out by viewer Mia Magnuson. This isn't part of the Easter egg hunt, but it's just kind of a funny little curiosity. So we're loading the actual VIC-20 binary, unmodified. Okay, the only thing you have to do is change the background color. White is probably the best color to change it to. And then change the cursor color to black. And then you can do the sys 32592, just like on the VIC-20. And there's the VIC-20 adventure game running on the Commodore 64. The only thing is that the screen formatting is a little bit weird. Hey, what should we do here? Look. Get the pillow. Get the sheets. Get up. Go north. Look. Go north. Look. I'm in a bathroom with a mirror, pocket watch, and toilet. What shall I do now? Use the toilet? Okay. That's much better. Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Mia. So next we're going to try another Andy Finkel game, Lazarian. And I do have a box copy. This was actually the very first cartridge game I ever bought for any system. Unfortunately, this isn't the original box. I don't know what's happened to it. I think I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. Hashtag retro regrets. Of course, I had to get another copy just because this was such a significant game for me. There's the cartridge, Lazarian. This is supposedly an arcade game by Bally Midway, but I had never seen it. And there's the manual. And as usual, no mention of Andy Finkel or any idea of who the developer is. So this is a really special game to me. Let's give it a try and find that Easter egg. I played it like crazy. Partly because it's the only game I had. Here we go. 1983 Commodore, 1982 Bally Midway. And just because this is such an obscure game, probably a lot of you have never seen this before. I am going to try and complete one round of it. There we go. First got to shoot out these kind of asteroids. The yellow one is the one you have to shoot. Shoot the yellow zone. And then you have to get in the middle. And then you gotta shoot them now. I don't really understand why, but... Okay. And next level is these caves. There's these kind of like monkey guys. It's interesting variety in this game. You gotta shoot these guys. They're hiding behind these rocks or something. I like how it's this like cave theme. And then you gotta go through this. You gotta dodge those asteroids. Alright, and here's the boss. So wait, it's a lot like the games like Gorf, Phoenix. It does have this four-way shooting. Wait, this game flashes a lot. You might want to look away from the next bit if you are sensitive to flashing screens. There we go. Ah! All right. Ah! There we go. Pretty epic. Okay, now you've seen the whole game. and then it gets a bit tougher. So this is a game that I've been playing on and off for, I guess, 38 years now. So it's pretty exciting to me. This is a special game to me, and it's pretty exciting to find that it has an Easter egg in it. Here on the title screen, it's just that same Control, Commodore, and Shift held together. Yeah, and down there at the bottom, C64 version by Andy Finkel, February 83. So it's this scrolling Easter egg. Just is really cool to me that this little secret was hidden in this game all this time. I actually just found it. This was the Easter egg I found that triggered both of these episodes for the VIC-20 and Commodore 64. This was the one I found first. I just happened to look. Next is another obscure arcade port for the C64 called Blueprint. Another game I've never seen in the arcade. And as much as it pains me, I don't own all of Andy's games on physical format. So for those games I don't, I found the cartridge image, CRT file, online. I put it on the micro SD card on my Kung Fu Flash, courtesy of the future was 8-bit. This is such a handy device. I really recommend it when you want to run cartridge images, and it's just so easy to set up. So I'll be using that for Blueprint and some other games today. The menu. Okay, and I put all these different programs on here. And Blueprint, this is one I wasn't even sure if it was an Andy Finkel program. Like I mentioned, it was really hard to track down his complete discography or gameography, but I did find somewhere that Andy worked on Blueprint. So we'll try this. Here we go, Blueprint. So this is a game I'm not very good at, starring JJ, and there's the Blueprint. Collect all parts and assemble machine for the blueprint. When complete, start the machine and use it to destroy the monster before it catches the girl. Programming by Hindorf and Holmes. Okay, so we'll start the game here. So here we can run around, and the idea is that you got to take all these parts that are hidden in different buildings. Whoops. Oh. So, you know. Of course, the guys just go help her. He's got to be a nerd and try build an invention instead. Okay, anyway. Drop the monster off in the bomb pit. Alright, so maybe that's enough of that game. We'll restart it here. But it turns out that this program does have an Easter egg. Took a little bit more digging than usual to find it. But on the title screen, you can just hit restore to go back to it. Hold down left shift and S on the title screen. Okay? And then nothing happens. You start the game. And this title screen comes, and then an extra screen appears, Blueprint by Bill Hindorf, Dave Holmes, and Cindy Merton. But Andy Finkel's name is not there. So that seems odd to me. So I don't know if Andy didn't want to be credited, or they left him off, or maybe he didn't work on this at all. I heard he did the music. It's not the greatest music, so maybe he didn't want to be credited. By the way, that Cindy Merton that was credited there, she was one of the two authors of the Programmer's Reference Guide for the Commodore Plus/4. Quite a rare book. Okay, so even if Andy Finkel isn't mentioned there, that's another Easter egg. This Blueprint Easter egg is one that I have never seen demonstrated before. I didn't know it was there until I went looking. The next thing Andy Finkel did work on, for sure, was a game called DragonsDen. And again, I don't have the original cartridge, but we'll use the Kung Fu Flash. And here it is. It even says, by Andy Finkel, right on the title screen. So I don't know if policy was already changing by 1983, or he just did it and got away with it. This is another really obscure game. I'm not very good at it, but it actually has a bit in common with Lazarian. This is reminiscent of that first asteroid screen, and then you actually have to battle them. I mean, it's all... Oh. I mean, obviously it's not exactly the same. Next is this kind of cave scene. Oh. Oh, I thought I got those guys. Guess you just gotta dodge them. Not doing very good here. Whoops. I'm going to cut this out. I'm not very good at this game. Okay, so even though it says Andy Finkel, if you do the classic Commodore Shift and Control, I will restore again. There we go. Okay, up at the top, program by Andy Finkel, 8/83, August 83. So even though his name was already on the title screen, perhaps he was a bit concerned that it would get removed. It kind of messes up the clouds there. But the other aspect of it is that we actually know that he completed this in August 1983. And it was just kind of helpful to see when I was trying to piece together what he had worked on. It was neat to know this came 6 months after Lazarian. Oh, there's the dragon screen I didn't get to. And it's also interesting how the design of DragonsDen is reminiscent of Lazarian. You know, it's not an exact ripoff or anything, but for each aspect of Lazarian, DragonsDen kind of echoes it. Okay, and we're nearing the end of Andy's 8-bit career with Commodore. The last thing I found that he worked on was this International Tennis. And again, I don't have an original. I'm just going to run it off the Kung Fu Flash. I'll just let it run, because it's the quickest way of seeing it. I did a lot of disassembly on this game and could not find any Easter eggs, but I think the reason for that will become clear. We'll just let it play the demo. It doesn't take too long. And this is a 1984 game. To me, it's actually very impressive graphics for 1984. Really neat sprites. The coloring of them and the animation's quite good. Maybe not quite to Epic's levels, but it's approaching it. The crowd follows the ball, bouncing left to right. Oh, and here we go. Nice little cheering animation. And now watch these credits. Executive producer John Mathias. Directed by Andy Finkel. Developed by Judy Braddock. Title screens by Jeff Barrett. We've seen his name. Audio effects by Matt Blaise. Supporting script Steve Finkel. Special thanks to Estrie and C. Shepper. This has been a CBM Sports presentation, and they're designed by Judy Braddock. So it very well may be that Andy was just the director or producer on this, and so maybe he didn't do any programming or just like assisted a little, if this Judy did most of the programming or all of the programming. But it's also notable that by then they're doing these kind of professional credits. So Commodore must have had a change of policy in either late 83 or into 84 where they start allowing programmers to actually display their names. And probably the original reasons for wanting to prevent credits were to stop companies from poaching employees, for being able to help keep wages low and so on. But for example, many of the top Atari programmers quit Atari and formed Activision, which went on to become a very successful company. And so they may have found that, it's just not worth trying to suppress the programmers, because that kind of thing can come around and just bite you badly. So may have been that Atari abandoned that concept due to the rise of Activision and Imagic, and so Commodore followed suit. It's just mostly speculation. So as far as I know, this was the last 8-bit project that Andy was involved with. Afterwards, he joined the Amiga group, and I found on this website a mini bio for Andy Finkel. Known as the Amiga Wizard Extraordinaire, he was head of Workbench 2.0 development, as well as an advisor to Amiga Technologies on the Power Amiga, PPC-based Amiga system. And I know of at least one other 8-bit Commodore programmer from that era who went on to join the Amiga group. It may have actually been quite common for a while there. So that concludes our little tour of Andy Finkel's programs. Those are all the new Easter eggs that I've found. Most of these haven't been documented before as far as I know, but I very well may have missed some, or maybe they were documented in a magazine that I haven't found yet. If I've missed any Andy Finkel programs, please let me know, and there are a lot of other Easter eggs still hiding in programs. I've already discovered some of them, and I have to get them into a video. You may even go find them now based on some of the things you've seen in these last couple videos. Thank you very much to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
On the C64 location 53280 controls the color of the border, while 53281 controls the color of the screen. Poke a 0 in and the screen turns black. Poke a 1 in and it turns white. So easy and quick to make that change. If you rapidly change the color, the screen will flash, but not in a uniform way. It depends on the raster scan. The screen is redrawn 60 times a second, from top to bottom, from left to right. So a color change will appear across the screen as a horizontal slice. The color cycle